Six Paths is the first and most venerated shinobi in all of Naruto. I think my boy Hamada needs some more attention too. As a little brother myself, sometimes the little tree needs some light too, am I right? Anyway, the Sage of Six Paths was the creator of Ninshu, a form of ninjutsu whose only technique was Tak no Jutsu. Alright, maybe I jest a little. Hagoromo had a lot of cool techniques, but at the core of his philosophy was connection, to understand people on a deeper level. Not so much the fun facts about them, such as their birthday or anything like that though. I assume you get bonus points for knowing these things. He preferred to know people on an emotional level and build a bond of love. This was something his son, Ashura, managed to do in all of his incarnations. But there are times when I wonder what would have happened had Hamada and Hagoromo, as well as Indra and Ashura, traded places. What if Naruto were the Sage of Six Paths?
On the night of the alleged incident, you claim you were in your apartment all night, correct?
Yes. Playing Marvel Strike Force. I'd finally beaten Apocalypse for the first time.
Objection!
On what grounds?
There's no way he beat Apocalypse. His basic attacks can tear through top-tier heroes, and his resistance is through the roof. And we're supposed to believe that this man took him down?
Order in the court. Counselors, approach the bench. Do you believe the witness's claim?
Your Honor, with the right strategy, it can be done. My client could have used Captain America paired with Captain Carter. Cap taunts and soaks up the damage, while Carter heals him and revives any fallen teammates.
Your Honor, this is pure speculation.
Overruled. We need to consider synergy. He also could have used a Magneto and the Death Seed team. If you add in Archangel, all of the team's crits turn into healing. That gives you enough time to whittle down Apocalypse and his allies.
That's not how I did it.
I paired the Eternals with Red Hulk, Rogue, and Kang the Conqueror. With Kang's speed, Red Hulk's AoE damage, and Rogue's sheer brute force, I was able to knock out Apocalypse before he even had a chance to make an opening statement. That sounds viable. I call for a 5-minute recess.
Marvel Strike Force. Click the link in the description and download it now for free.
We find the defendant guilty of being great at Marvel Strike Force and also parking in a red zone.
Y2 Cacao Shoulder Bag. Only $1.61. Perfect for hanging out. Click to shop now.
The Sage of Six Paths. Welcome to the Amagi. Before we begin, we publish a new video every day, so be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. The Amagi's reach stretches beyond just this channel, so if you're a fan of us, please consider subscribing to our other channels and following us on all of our social media. Help us reach our goal of passing 100,000 followers on all of our accounts by the end of the year. Her name was Kaguya Otsutsuki, the Rabbit Goddess. She was beautiful, loving, kind, uncaring, cold, merciless. These were the things often used to describe her. But the Rabbit Goddess, of whom they did not remember where she came from, was pregnant. Yes, she had 2 little divine peas in her pod. After Tsukiyomi had been cast, many humans regained their autonomy, but had been forced to forget everything that happened. They went about their lives. Now, Kaguya was a different flavor of Otsutsuki altogether. I suppose compared to her brethren, she would be considered a saint, but when compared by human standards, she appeared as a cruel deity who every so often demanded a blood sacrifice to satiate her lust for power. But who was she really? Why? Her methods were so unorthodox. Why did she not end the world? Was it because there was no moon? No, surely there was another reason. Perhaps it wasn't because she desired power, but because she needed it. You see, Kaguya loved humanity, but she loved herself more. Self-preservation, pure and simple. Perhaps in her mind she had some semblance of an excuse, like she was protecting humanity. But essentially what we saw here was Kaguya having her cake and trying to eat it too. She wanted to keep humanity alive, but also wanted to drain them of their power. So she was slow to feed her ten-tails. Was it because she wanted them to survive? Or perhaps she just wanted humanity to reproduce long enough to increase the number of souls on the surface of the planet at any given time. Regardless, she didn't kill them all. But there had been a time when she loved humanity more than herself. She killed Ishiki over it. But instead of usurping the fruit immediately, she instead held off to live among the humans, as if she couldn't decide if they should live or die. It was at that time that she met Tenji. He was an emperor, a powerful man. Well, powerful by human standards, and that wasn't really all that powerful compared to an Otsutsuki, but alas, she became one of his concubines. She lived with him for a while, and now he's dead because of a dispute, but also Kaguya-sama is braggers now. So I'm sure you understand. She sits as a queen, but soon shall have heirs. She eventually gives birth, and the eldest she names Indra, and the youngest she names Ashura. The two boys grow in her shadow. They too possess chakra, which was irksome to Kaguya, but being a mother, she loved her babies and would not take it away from them, as removal of their chakra would surely result in their deaths. Uniquely, one of the babies possessed her eyes. Indra. The other, though, he was different. Kind of a dud. Poor boy was weak and not very smart and had the luck of an ice cream cone in a volcano. But there was something within him that was pure, innocent. As the children grew, Indra would always display his independence, while Ashura was always the one waddling to Kaguya, hoping to get in her lap. It was because of this loving nature that she could never turn her back on Ashura. The Otsutsuki weren't like other clans. They didn't really have a strong relationship with anybody in their clan. If you weren't strong, you were sent to become Jubi chowder for someone stronger. As she looked back on her life, though, she realized that she wasn't that different from little Ashura. She had no strength or power, but the heart within this child warmed her from the core to the extremities. His chakra was being used differently. He wasn't using it to make fire or lightning or control the elements like mischievous little Indra was doing. No, he was using his chakra to connect with Mommy. In these little mother-son bonding moments, it was as if they'd become one person again. She could sense his emotions as he could sense hers, and her heart felt all the more full for it. There had been a time when she had considered taking the chakra back after their birth, but now she felt like a fool for ever having considered that. If she had, she'd be missing out on this. But suddenly, Ashura's eyes opened up as he looked up at her with his pure white Byakugan. He shook a little. Kaguya sensed that he was feeling afraid. It was then that she realized her mind had wandered back to the Ten Tails, back to the Otsutsuki, back to Momoshiki. Her anxiety was causing the little fella grief.
It's time to get fluffy! Fluffy stuffy! Only flush you get to pull! You gotta pull the fluff, pull the fluff, pull the fluff, can't get enough. Order your rainbow panda! Pull the fluff, Brazil now still. This is crazy fun! So squishy, soft, so many to hug. Pull the fluff off your fluffy stuffies to reveal a surprise character underneath. Or pull the fluff to customize a fluffy stuffies of your very own. Pull to create fluffy friends. Design your own fluffy looks never end. And explode in the door! Pull it, reveal it, stuff it and see which fluffy stuffies will yours be. Who's underneath? It's a surprise. Pull the fluff, watch the fur fly. Fluff it, hug it! Take your fluff and stuff it to make another new friend. We love you! So ready to collect. So fluffy and cute! Pull it, reveal it, stuff it and see which fluffy stuffies will yours be. Fluffy stuffies! Sold separately, who will you get?
This is a Nissan sales event tag.
And here's the star of the show.
Better hurry. These offers won't get a sequel.
So she took a couple deep breaths and focused her mind back on Ashura. The boy began to smile again. She would rock her sons to sleep at night and sing them an ancient lullaby she had once heard as a child. A song about the countless stars, about taking it all in your hand and being the best that you could possibly be. But alas, the tone in which she sang it was different. The song was originally about conquering other worlds, about killing and devolving into an ultimate creature. Kaguya no longer felt like she wanted to evolve and conquer. She was happy here on Earth with Indra and Ashura, and if she never saw another Otsutsuki, it would be too soon. But now she felt like she needed to evolve, because she knew eventually the stronger among them would come. She needed to be ready. She wasn't weak at the moment by any means, but she knew that by the time Momoshiki showed up, she would be outclassed. So she needed it. She needed another chakra fruit, and sadly that demanded sacrifice. For her, she sang a new song for them. A song where the world was in their hands, not to conquer or destroy or harm, but to explore and learn, and be the best they could possibly be. She wanted them to be happy and to be who they wanted. She looked at Indra. Honestly, she knew he was a free spirit in his own right, but she had hoped he would learn from Ashura. This was part of the be the best that you can be part of the song. These two brothers were twins, cut from the same cloth, half of the same whole. She just wanted them to be happy and to learn from one another. She so desperately wanted to see what was inside of Indra's heart, but that he kept closely guarded. Not even Ashura was let inside, and everyone let him inside. The boy had essentially become her empire's mascot. She kissed them both to sleep. As the boys grew, they became wiser and stronger, but not in equal measure. The boys were like fire and ice, but some things never changed. Anytime Kaguya turned around, Ashura was around her waist in a hug. He was her sunshine. Anytime she remembered the Otsutsuki, he was there. It's like he sensed when she was terrified and hugged his mother to give her comfort. And that's exactly what she felt. But all the while, Indra from the outside would look in on them. He would watch Kaguya laugh with Ashura and hold him high in the air. He would watch her sit him on her lap. But more than once, Indra would walk in and sit on his mother's lap, and she almost showed annoyance at this. What was wrong with him? Why didn't she like him as much as Ashura? The sun was shining overhead, and Kaguya stood between her children. She hoped that it would never come to pass, but she knew without a doubt that if it ever did occur and Kaguya couldn't defend them, they needed to be ready to defend themselves. And so sparring was always the cure. Ashura was having a hard time keeping up with Indra, and Kaguya was beginning to simply believe that Ashura was a lover, not a fighter. Unlike his brother, who was a fighter and less a lover. But as the spar began, she noticed unusual ferocity in Indra's actions. "Slow down, Indra. Your brother can't keep up," she said. He looked to his mother, his Sharingan active. He needs to learn or he'll never be good for anything. Kaguya noticed this in his eyes. There was hatred. Kaguya stood. "Stop this, Indra." Indra weaved hand signs and breathed out a large puff of fire. Ashura raised his arms to defend himself. He didn't know any ninjutsu, and Indra knew this. There was a cry as the flames touched flesh. A huge gust of wind suddenly blew the flames out. Kaguya ran over to Ashura to look at him. In her rage, she turned around and backhanded Indra. "Get out of my sight before I reclaim the chakra I gave you," she shouted at the boy on the ground. Indra was startled by this outburst, and for the first time since he was a baby, Indra began to cry. He got up and ran off. Kaguya knelt down by Ashura. The left side of his body, as well as the palm of his right hand, was burned. He was wailing, tears of agony going down his cheeks. Kaguya went to pick him up, but her touch caused him to recoil in pain. She looked down at him. "Ashura!" She began attempting to heal his wounds. The process wasn't easy for either of them. To heal, Kaguya had to lay hands on him, which caused Ashura to wail in pain. She couldn't help but shed tears with every moment that passed by, because as Ashura was in pain, he subconsciously started vibing out the pain he was in through his chakra. Perhaps a self-defense mechanism designed to tell people he was hurt without being able to talk. And as Kaguya took it in, she felt all of his emotions. His physical pain and his emotional pain. Indra's attack had not only hurt his skin, but his heart. There was confusion, as if Ashura was asking why his brother would hurt him like this. And there was sorrow, feeling like he was being hated for no reason. Kaguya kept up the process, and eventually she managed to heal her son. However, there were some scars still left on his body, and these scars were painful. After that, there was no more sparring. In fact, she prohibited Indra from practicing ninjutsu anymore. Her harsh words hurt Indra too. One night, he crawled out the window. The boy would rush off into the night towards the mountains. He wanted to be alone. Where best could he go other than to the God Tree? Nobody ever went there. Nobody would ever suspect him of going there. He climbed the mountain under cover of night, the full moon the only thing leading him. All the while, Kaguya was in her bed. This night, she was letting Ashura sleep with her. She knew his scars hurt, so she was using her own chakra to numb the pain. His chipper self had not returned. These scars had not healed, and she wondered if ever she could get them to heal. The first step was making Indra make up with him, but therein lay the issue. She didn't know if she could trust Indra anymore, and worse, she didn't even know if Indra was remorseful at all. Yes, he cried, but were those tears of remorse, or tears because he got yelled at? As she thought about it, she began to think that maybe she was a little too rough on him. It was a mother's duty to punish her child when they did evil, but she did threaten to take his chakra away, and both she and Indra knew that this was a death sentence. Her heart began to ache, knowing that she had told her own child that she was going to kill him. She called a servant to the room. When the servant entered, Kaguya slipped out of bed and whispered, telling the maidservant to stay by Ashura and to let him know that Mommy was just going to talk with Indra, and that she would be back soon. The servant woman nodded and sat by the bed. Kaguya walked through the house to Indra's room. The door was closed. She opened up the door to see a lump under the covers. She walked in and knelt down by the bed. "Indy," she asked. "Indy, are you still awake?" She thought that maybe he had cried himself to sleep, but she didn't find it very healthy for the boy to be sleeping under this many layers. Surely he would get hot. It was summer after all, and she didn't want him to suffocate. So she gently pulled the covers down, but to her surprise, she saw nothing but pillows. She stood. "Indra?" She looked under the bed. "Indra!" She opened the closets. A manservant came to the door when he heard her. "Is something the matter, milady?" She looked to him. "Scour the house. Indra is missing. Call in a search party. We need to find my son." And so the various servants began getting together to search near and far. Unbeknownst to them, Indra was already on his way back. He had a 1,000-yard stare, his mouth agape with what he had just seen. He walked back to the house and sat down on the stairs of the porch. A servant walked by and stopped at the door and looked out, calling for Kaguya. Kaguya then patted the servant on the shoulder and told her to call off the search. She went out to speak with her son. She slowly descended the stairs and sat down beside him. Indra looked at her out of the corner of his eyes before turning to face away. Kaguya stopped her hand from touching him. She spoke. "So, where did you go?" Indra didn't answer. She waited for a moment to give him ample time just in case. "You didn't get hurt while you were out, did you? If you did, I would love to make it better." He shook his head. Kaguya just sat there on the stairs for a moment. "I'm sorry." Indra's ears twitched at the sound of the apology. Kaguya continued. "I didn't mean what I said, Indra. I struck you, and that was not a proper reaction. You deserved punishment, yes, but I feel as though I went overboard by striking you like that. Can I at least see your cheek, please?" He looked back at her, tears in his eyes. She noticed a blue patch. She didn't think that he had hit him this hard. She put her hand gently on his cheek to heal it. She looked into his large, glassy eyes and spoke. "When I said that I would take your chakra away, I didn't mean it, baby." Tears dripped from his eyes. Kaguya looked down at him. "You never have to be scared of me. I swear on my life, and let me be cut down and killed should I break this oath. I will never take your chakra away from you. I won't kill you, my precious son. That I swear to you now." She pulled Indra into her bosom to hug. She had told him not to be afraid, but Indra was afraid. He went to the mountain. He saw the god tree. He knew what happened to the people sent to serve it. He knew what his mother was doing to people, and it terrified him. After a moment in her embrace, Kaguya rose and offered her hand. "Come, I want you to see Ashura." She led Indra in to see Ashura. Ashura looked over and saw Indra and recoiled for a second. Kaguya walked to Indra and put her hand on his shoulder and looked down to him. "Go on." Indra looked up at her and said to Ashura, "Sorry." Ashura sat there for a second, just looking at him, and then he looked up to Kaguya. She smiled. "Don't you have something to say, Shuri?" Ashura looked down at Indra. "I forgive you." Kaguya smiled, hearing the two children make up. Deep down, though, Ashura knew that Indra didn't mean it. Scariest thing of all, Indra didn't regret hurting him. In fact, Indra was glad. He was glad at seeing how badly Ashura had been hurt. But then, why was he apologizing? Ashura sensed an unusual amount of fear from Indra. Had Mother threatened him? Ashura decided to let it go. And even if the apology was hollow, he would forgive him specifically because he loved him. And that was the last time they spoke on that situation. Years passed, and Indra and Ashura had grown up into strong young men.
T-Mobile knows whether you break down in the middle of nowhere or get a flat tire on the edge somewhere, people everywhere trust AAA to get them back on the road. And AAA trusts T-Mobile to be their exclusive wireless partner. Because T-Mobile covers more highway miles with 5G than anyone. So with AAA's nationwide fleet connected on T-Mobile, the middle of nowhere is a lot closer than you think.
Ashura's burn scars never truly went away, and they continued to hurt night after night, but he was coping in his own way. Laying in bed at night, he would clear his mind, let his worries go, relax his muscles, and focus only on his breathing. This helped him take his mind off the pain and helped him get to sleep quicker. Indra, of course, always seemed tired. He always had dark circles around his eyes. Or perhaps that was just emo eyeliner. Kaguya ruled the people as she always had, like a business or a life support system for her own happiness. Ashura was basically her ambassador, and he had a way with words. These words eventually caught the eye of a girl about his age named Haori. Haori was a kind and gentle woman, beautiful and possessing of an open heart. The two fell in love almost immediately, and it was believed by the two that they should wed. Ashura would go to his mother and tell her about it. He would speak of the girl with long dark hair, whose eyes glowed like the sun, and whose smile was like sunshine. Kaguya listened to the way he spoke, and she felt a sudden fear in her heart. At first, she attempted